What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, everybody. Here we go, then. It is a Tuesday evening. Thank you so much for joining with me this evening. A lot to get into tonight. We're going to talk about some very important things that are happening that no one else is discussing. No one else is getting into. So I thought, look, if no one else is going to talk about it, then we need to talk about it. So we're going to get into two of the probably most important announcements coming so far. And weirdly enough, they both land this week as well. So we're going to talk about those in tonight's live stream. We're going to get into why that is important and I guess what we can expect from the market. Now, you know that a lot of us have been kind of saying, or certainly there's been this view that, Casey, what's going on, buddy? Sorry, TikTok. That, there is this kind of view that everything's going to the moon and that everyone needs to just stop worrying and that it's all fine. We'll talk about maybe some of the bumps in the road, okay? Again, I don't want to come across as like the most bearish of bears. That's not what that's not at all what I'm trying to say. But it is absolutely worth discussing a couple of the key things that are coming up. And more importantly, what's landing over the course of the next 24 hours. In fact, we'll get this, we're going to get this announcement tomorrow. So tonight's live stream, no sound. Oh, what? What? Hold on a secondo. That's annoying, isn't it? I've got sound on YouTube, right? Okay, can you hear me now? Hear me now, everybody. Weirdly, I'm assuming that just hasn't charged. You guys, oh, cool, nice, Rusty. So yeah, so we're gonna get into tonight. The Federal Reserve FOMC meeting, not just they're not going to cut rates, but let's talk about what might be coming down the line. And more specifically, how likely are rate hikes to come down? Because this is something people aren't talking about. People are like, oh yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. Like, we don't need to stress about anything. So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk about something else that's really, really important that's also coming this week, which is the Basel, depending on where you come from, 3, okay, the Basel III vote. This is all, and you may recall this, by the way, and it's sort of snuck up on me, really. But this is all to do with the banks. So the banks' view of custodying assets, they get a chance to change it. The last time the Federal Reserve had a vote on it was back in 2018. And this is all to do with the capital that banks need to hold in order to back the asset that they're giving away. So whether that be just dollars, lending, mortgages, all of this stuff. Now, obviously, the crypto market was put towards it. So we want to talk a bit about that as well. And like I said, these weirdly all seem to coincide tomorrow. All right. So it's a very important point. So you've had this kind of higher risk view that, the Federal Reserve FOMC meeting, what we need to talk about. What can we expect? Is it going to play out as we sort of anticipate it's going to play out or not? Okay, so these are sort of some of the things that I want to dive into this evening, as well as maybe what is being played out in the markets more specifically right now. So is the market, acting rational? Are we seeing this kind of play out normally, etc., etc.? And then we'll sort of get into the whole Fed Reserve policy and what that kind of looks like. Okay, so sit back, relax. Welcome to the show as always. Don't forget the like button, hit the subscribe button if you are brand new here as well. We do obviously talk about the crypto markets and we go a little bit deeper than many other people seem to care. We want to make sure that we understand the core fundamentals of exactly what's going on before we make any investment advice, not on this channel, by the way, but any kind of thoughts and opinions you guys have, right? Okay. So let me just reposition TikTok there so you guys see the chart. Respectfully, I would argue that I am ready for what's coming. What have I said? Crypto holders aren't ready. Okay, fine. Maybe you are in the minority. I glanced across that, saw it, and thought, oh yeah, here comes VHF, giving it the big one. He's going to be a challenge this evening. And then I totally just misread your statement that you put in there. Respectfully, actually, I am ready for what's coming. Anyway. So anyway, good to see you all. Welcome in as always. Appreciate it. And like I said, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's do it. Okay. So really quickly, let's take a quick look at the price of BTC and see what is happening today. It's been a pretty interesting day, really. And I think what you'll notice, or certainly what you're going to probably see, is volatility in the market. I think that's fair to say. And we haven't really seen a lot of volatility recently. We've just seen consistent uptrend. People might say, well, hold on a minute, 2-bit. We got some insane volatility back here. But, if you think about it, for the last 10 days or whatever, we've seen a pretty solid rise in price of BTC, going from the bottom here on the pennant to the upper range, and then starting to sell off today, which again isn't a surprise. I don't think that's really come as any sort of unusualness as this market kind of plays out as we expect it to play out. So BTC is kind of holding up. There's a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, a lot of people will be thinking, well, where is the risk? Like, what should I be doing? And, the Federal Reserve meeting is definitely going to be one of them, because people are maybe expecting a pivot in terms of policy. But I think people aren't expecting, which I think could potentially, and it's not, by the way, I'm not for 1 second suggesting that tomorrow the Federal Reserve are going to increase their rates. Like, I'm not suggesting that whatsoever. But it is worth noting that maybe we start to see that form part of the next couple of rate cuts. Now, remember, the market's priced in Kevin Warsh rate cuts, at least 3 by the end of the year. This is the Trump guy that he's picked. So if there's even a slight discussion here that rate hikes may be on the cards, then you better believe it's going to get pretty wild, and it's going to get pretty uncomfortable pretty quick, I think. And this certainly for me is where sort of risk turns into the market. So you can look at it from a technical standpoint, you can look at it from all of that, but this is where risk does generally come into the market, okay? Because you're like, well, okay, maybe we do see a sell-off in the market, maybe we do see some uncomfortableness, maybe it is, a problem as we sort of walk through this. So, like I said, it is important. Einstein says mid-May. Yeah, it's been a shit show today, mate. Market makers taking the bit. Well, it feels like it. Market did dump and then push back up. Okay. So I don't want to spend too much time here on the price of BTC. We can come back and look at the charts and look at where we are. I think it's fair to say market sold off today. A couple of coins doing pretty well. That's about it, really. That's about it. Is where we go. I swear I'm sick of the bearish content. Yeah, the Fed. Yeah, I know. Buy and hold. Yeah, you wait. We know. Everyone quit leverage. Things are approved. I mean, it's a pretty bold statement. We're going to talk about something different, though, GT. That's the point, though. Yeah. It's not necessarily bearish sentiment, by the way. It depends. In bear markets, you almost want to look at the complete opposite, because bearish sentiment means opportunity, doesn't it? What you don't want is bearish sentiment when markets are pumping. It's a very different way of looking at it. So bearish sentiment right now is actually a good thing. So you need to understand that. Okay, so let's start with the Federal Reserve. Let's start of expectations, and then we'll work our way back. So the Federal Reserve, as I think is not a secret right now, expectation here is that they will not cut rates. All right, I think that's a pretty fair statement to make. We're less bothered about this, right? We're less bothered about this because I think that is important to understand where we kind of move forward. Okay, so again, what we're looking for is this kind of starts to move forward, and then understandably, we start to then see this kind of sort of move forward from where we currently sit. And we'll talk about the Fed's future economic projections in just a minute and kind of what this can tell us and what could be the expectations on the back of it. So no surprise. Now, for many of you that have been here in the channel for a while, you will know that we've looked at this metric and we've sort of stayed very, very close to this. And what you'll notice here is as you start to click through this, you're seeing a very, very obvious pattern, which is there is no appetite at all to do anything, even remotely thinking about sniffing to cut rates until you get to June. And even right now, as it sits, June is, you guys can't see this. Even when you get to June, we are still at a 77% expectations here that we do not see a rate cut. So, understand rate cuts are generally what markets are priced in. This is what Trump wants. Trump isn't going to get, though. This is the problem, because actually war in Iran isn't generally good for costs. Tariffs isn't generally good for costs as well. So as much as Trump wants Kevin Warsh to come in, Kevin Warsh almost going to have to come in and just lie, and then lie to make it sort of make sense, if that kind of all adds up in some sort of logical sentiment here. So, July, we're still at a 62% chance that the Federal Reserve is not going to cut rates. By July, like, think about this. This is where it starts to play as a more favorable look in towards the year. So right now, the best possible case scenario, just to kind of work through this, is that you get a singular rate cut by the 9th of December 2026, based upon the FedWatch tool right now, which is totally different to what we've, certainly been talking about. But what's important here, totally different to what's been expected and what's been priced in my opinion, to the market. No one's pricing in a single rate cut in December of this year when Kevin Walsh and Jerome Powell's going. Now, this opens the door for what Jerome Powell may say tomorrow. I don't expect anything super crazy. If anything, he's probably going to stay clear of, future kind of views of it. All right. FUD, even more sideways view. I think so. You just came across my business gauge speakers and it was loud as kind of spooked a couple of customers. It's fine. Okay, I'll keep it very on point. Shout out to unrusted customers. Buy something. So this kind of takes us all the way down to December. Now, what we need to understand is what was the Fed's FOMC projections, or specifically, what was their summary of economic projections looking forward into 26, 27, and 28. And what you get is two different things. You get the central tendency. How do people feel about where the price, or let's call it the interest rate, is going to sit by year? And where are we going to see this in terms of the medium view? So what is the average that comes in, okay? So again, these are very specific. Sorry, TikTok, you guys can't see that. Very specific and very important. And again, it is the appropriate monetary policy defined as a future path of policy that each participant deems. So everyone that sits on the Federal Reserve, where do they think rate cuts are going to go? Where, what's their kind of expectation for this? Because this can kind of give us then a view as to what we can expect to see. And more importantly, what that looks like when you are pricing in markets and when you're pricing market moves. Again, I'm not for any second suggesting here that, Bitcoin's going to dump to 60K tomorrow. Like, I'm not suggesting that whatsoever, but all we're doing is kind of walking through what has been suggested here. Okay. So when you look at the medium projections, and you can see here where the expectations is on the change of real GDP, you can see what their expectation is of 1.7 in 2025, 2.3 in 2026, which we already know is slightly behind now. So GDP is behind 2.3 with obviously Iran and all the rest of it. 2% in 2027 and then 28, 1.9%. And then the assumption based upon, some of these moves is what that then could give you in terms of a reduction in the potential price or the potential of interest rates when it sits within that number. Okay. So, projections of change in real inflation and also the fourth quarter change from the previous year indicated as PCE inflation, which we're going to get tomorrow as well, which is kind of wild. And obviously some of this more important, like unemployment rate as an example, okay? It kind of gives you a bit of an idea. So where do we get to here? Well, look at this. If you just take, for example, change in real GDP, the expectations for this year is 2.3%. Well, we already know the US is behind that. I think the last poll was about 1.7 or something like that. Maybe 1.8, I think. 0.7, excuse me. So yeah, so quite significantly already behind where the Federal Reserve believed they could set monetary policy aligned to that number. The fact that you would see sort of this number around central tendency, so giving us between 2.1 and 2.5, that then allows you to kind of look at a potential rate cut down towards that number, then, we're quite a way away from this. We are quite a significant, significant margin away from what that number looks like. And this is kind of where you then get into this world of saying, well, expectations here on central tendency at 2.1 for real GDP were quite away in the US specifically from that number. Well, that's going to add pressure to monetary policy. This is essentially means they're going to have to either fight inflation or they may even have to cut it. The big ones we obviously talked about is unemployment rate, expectations there for medium at 4.4, and the central tendency in the range sits between 4.2 and 4.6. So again, these are the average, these were the range. So, one of the Federal Reserve member would say 4.2, and then one says 4.6, and that allows them to create their view as to where interest rates, or more importantly, where they believe that overall number is going to get to. Okay, so it's all relatively interesting stuff. but it does align to where I think the Fed is at the minute, which is probably slightly behind where they anticipated the US market to be, which again creates nervousness, creates problems. So, you know, you can sort of say, well, unemployment rate at 4.4, you know, if you were at a 4.6 as an example, you believe that you are going to see more unemployment rate. Well, then fine. Okay. Unemployment's not spiking. This could be good news if you were then looking for a more optimistic view as to where you could set your base rate. If you were then at the other end, 4.2, and you were saying, well, actually, I don't think inflation is going to be as bad. I don't think we're going to see employment as bad. Like, it's all going to be absolutely fine. Then you might already be thinking, oh, I potentially even need to revise where that looks like. Okay. So this is kind of just giving you a bit of a flavor as to where the Federal Reserve believes they are going to be. Now, what you can see here as well is the federal funds futures. Okay. So this is essentially like a futures contract, a Bitcoin futures contract, whatever you even call it, where the markets are anticipating moves within the federal funds rate. Where do we think it's going to get? And this aligns to exactly what we've just, you know, sort of walked and talked through, is that as it stands right now, the expectations is one rate cut. You can almost see where that rate cut is down here, by the way. So again, implied overnight rate and then in number of hikes in the cut price. So the expectation is one rate cut for the year, which again, markets simply aren't pricing one rate cut in. It's important to reference that, okay? It is absolutely important to make sure we're crystal clear on that number, because that is ultimately where the Federal Reserve are going to be. So you could argue and say, well, okay, the Federal Reserve tomorrow, what are we expecting to come out when it gets to Jerome Powell? Well, we're probably going to see a lot of dodge and weave. You know, he's very much going to duck, weave, dodge, and do all that kind of other stuff, because he won't want to talk about Iran. He clearly is coming out of the Federal Reserve. Maybe he's going to get asked about kind of what he thinks about, etc. But it's definitely not going to be the biggest mover in the world. What's going to be more important is what they talk about as a future economic projection. Where do they believe the market's going to be? Remember, Stephen Myron, for example, is absolutely been talking about, you know, set interest rates for what's coming rather than where we are. And there's obviously a big debate on this. And we'll talk about the Basel III or the Basel III upgrade in a minute, which is obviously the bigger move from the Federal Reserve, which is going to be important as well. Okay, so this kind of, you know, expectation that, look, we sit unchanged, but it's all going to be about Jerome Powell. He's probably going to talk about, like we said, rising in oil. He'll probably definitely talk about inflation. You just have to look at Brent crude as an example again today. And as much as everyone's like, it's fine, it's $103 a barrel, it's still wicked up. Brent crude going up generally means bad news if you are a big, heavy energy consumer in the stock market. Okay, so again, Jerome Powell's got to think about this, and they've got to fight this kind of tariff news and noise that's coming specifically out of, you know, out of Trump and kind of all that sort of stuff. Okay, so, you know, it's going to be a pretty interesting meeting tomorrow. And remember, generally what we do see is that markets are volatile on Federal Reserve days. Now, what you're also going to get tomorrow, which no one is talking about, and I, for the life of me, don't understand why not, is the Basel III discussion. Okay. And this, again, is an important thing to talk about. Michelle Bowman is the, I guess, the chair. I mean, this is absolutely not the greatest picture of whatsoever, but, you know, I'm not slaying. There she is. Look. Oh, come on, bro. Where's my thing gone? There she is. Look. So there she is. Look, Chair Michelle Bowman. And she is obviously chaired up this. Now, if you remember, we actually looked at her announcement about this. And more importantly, what this kind of means. And I don't envisage to go like super scorched earth on this and go like, you know, crazy detailed, because I don't want to do it. But I think it's worth just sort of walking through what it actually is. I just got some notes here that I made that I want to just reference back to as we're talking. And why this could be bullish for markets, or why it could be bearish for markets, okay? Now, at the minute, you know, it doesn't really matter. It matters longer term, okay? It does matter longer term. So let's just take a quick look at the summary. So you can see the summary here. What does it mean? Basically, the revised Basel rules lower large bank capital requirements slightly. Bowman is now arguing that excessive capital requirements harm credit provisions. Critics warn the plan will weaken financial systems as risks rise. Morgan Stanley notes 175 billion excess capital in large banks, and banks' capital may revert in 2019 levels if changes are adopted. So, if we were just to give this a real top line summary as to why this is important. If they change, this is good news. If they don't, then nothing changes, but it doesn't support the broader adoption of the crypto market. Okay, so let's just get that out there. So the best way to think about this, just really quickly before we go into this in a little bit more detail, clarity, hits Easter Friday, XRP is going to pump tonight. Bullish scenario after the Japan meeting tonight. Let's do it. Kyle's in the house. What's going on, man? Fat Sonic, he says the word lived like lived, and I don't know who in the world pronounced it like that. Hello, 2-bit future crypto millionaires. What's going on? SPX 6900 set to explode. Price prediction. More money. We'll take a look at it in just a minute. Let's just dive into this really quickly because this is important. What up, Tim? Been out of the loop for a while. Been making the money in the shops. Working better than the crypto for the moment. Yeah, I imagine it is. Okay. So let's just put a really easy way of thinking about this upgrade or not even upgrade, this pivot potentially. Think of the Basel III ruling as a Formula One car. Okay, let's look at it like that. And essentially what you've got here is that if you add more and more weight to a Formula One car, this essentially would be the capital that we would use for banks. It means that the banks are more stable. It means they can loan more things. It means that generally speaking, they're going to do what you absolutely anticipate, which if you take it as the banking sector, they'll do what they've always done. Loan your money out, make loads of money, and not really look to do anything further. Just keep everything boring as it is. Okay. I'm going to move you guys here really quick, TikTok, because there isn't loads of you in there, and it's important you can kind of just see. There's nothing really to see in the chat. So if you then say, well, let's say they adopt this potential and they do move on it, you essentially take loads of the weight away, and it basically makes the car faster, it makes it easier, makes it more chance to pivot, makes it can go into things like digital assets, should make the banking sector smoother, easier, liquidity flows. And bear in mind, we always talk about this, Bitcoin, the crypto market, likes liquidity. People can lend easier, etc., etc., etc. Okay. These are kind of where it gets important. These are kind of what it's important to think about. So where do we sit and what's worth noting about right now and how this can kind of, go? So these are something that the Federal Reserve decides. It was put in place back in 2008 in the financial crisis where global regulators essentially said, we fucked up and we need to make sure that we don't create things like this again. Almost think of it like a rule book, a way of managing monetary policy in banks that you don't get like insane 125% mortgages, people leverage themselves into oblivion, and the entire sector collapses and banks and governments have to be bailed out, okay? That's essentially what was brought in for. But it's been there forever. Digital assets are making a bigger deal about it, and this is kind of where you've had these proposals put forward by Michelle Bowman and specifically the Federal Reserve. So 2023 was the original proposal where essentially capital requirements were going to be reviewed. So big banks didn't need to have as much. So as it sits right now, the general rule is around 16% is what they need to have. And actually at times, you think about post-pandemic, it's been up and around 20%, right? What they're now saying is that essentially in a newer view, a 2026 view, that you could have reduced capital requirements by the biggest banks, not the smallest ones, the biggest ones. And then this essentially would mean that they could lend more capital, they could be more fluid with their capital. It would stimulate the economy. It would make things move just that little bit quicker, okay? And I think this is kind of where it could be good news. So not only are the markets kind of watching what's happening with the FOMC, they're also going to be looking for this, or at least I think smart money is going to be looking at this, because again, no movement would be seen as kind of bad news. Okay, it is kind of important to think that. So it's widely expected changes are part of a broader capital overhaul that marks the culmination of years-long effort by Wall Street banks to ease rules. Now, this is where the Clarity Act will sort of fall part of this as well, because this obviously makes life easier for that. And it is obviously worth kind of going in. Now, you do have the people like Elizabeth Warren that say this is ridiculous. You are opening up investors to way more risk than ever before, blah, 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 blah. Softer rules weaken the financial markets. It doesn't really, my personal opinion, I don't think it does. What I think it does is create innovation, create utility, create reasons that banks can't just buy your money, go and buy loads of property and can just, make an absolute crazy. 2008 crushed my business, but I prevailed a massive increase without government assistance. There you go. It's more, I think, to do with like the housing market and obviously people taking humongous loans out that they were never going to be able to afford. The banks essentially not being able to back it, which is kind of wow. What's going on, Fairground? Good to see you, bud. Welcome into you, sir. Okay. So let's then walk into how this plays out into the crypto market, like we said. So tomorrow they will do a vote on this. They'll essentially say yay or nay. Can banks hold less capital to lend out more or not? And essentially then when it comes in, it will drive looser credit conditions. It will drive more liquidity in the market. Essentially now what you'll get is you'll get policymakers will prioritize growing business. They'll prioritize the small business owner that wants to launch a brand new company. They'll support those people that want to, add equity into their housings or in their house or whatever it is, okay? Which I think is important. It doesn't, however, mean that if they approve this, that Bitcoin's going to skyrocket. But what it does mean longer term is we should absolutely be keeping a very, very close eye on it, because I think that's kind of where it becomes important, okay? So when we sort of dive into this in a little bit more detail and we understand what is the reaction to the market, and that's kind of, where is we sort of need to see it. Well, the banks will look to not have to do this. Simply because the banks want to have loads of money on their balance sheet. The more money the banks have, the more money they'll make. Okay, it's dead simple and dead straightforward. Okay. If they then have less, then this means that they have to work harder in terms of the offers they make. You bring competition back in, which is again good news. The Fed is expected to vote on this tomorrow. And it will go through, the proposals will go through into a 90-day public comment period. So it wouldn't be the end point, but it would certainly be an indication as to what to expect, okay? And then this is why, at the minute, I think, you are seeing Bitcoin flatten out. Price kind of just holding up a little bit because, as you sort of walk through some of this stuff here, the Fed's going to vote on the proposal at the board meeting next week. The central bank announced in a speech. So this is definitely something that's been discussed quite aggressively. And like we said, capital requirements become excessive. They impair banking system's fundamental function of providing credit to the real economy. And Bowman, appointed by Trump, by the way, she's a Trump-appointed Federal Reserve Board. So yeah, she's going to be, she's kind of going to be fine. My view on this, the Basel III vote, it's less important as just a vote. It's less important in terms of what they do, but actually it's more important as a broader market move. Think about it. Like, you look at the last bull market cycle and you say, hey, 126,000, we all thought we were going to the moon. Everything was going to be super, super crazy. And then obviously we got rugged by Binance. It all got a bit weird. And the market's kind of, collapsed. Well, actually, the more that people are invested, not necessarily the bigger the bags. Think of it as like whales coming in. Not the bigger the bags, the more people are in there, then I think it's actually going to be pretty important. And I think the market is relatively ignorant of this vote right now, which I think is probably worth it. Big money isn't, okay? So big money's positioning himself. We've been talking about that. And essentially when liquidity and change comes, then this absolutely will probably drive markets, which I think is worth noting here. Banking regulators are also easing related leverage ratio. The Fed is making its annual bank stress tests, which set capital levels more transparent. The sensible change will lower large bank requirements, a small amount in line with 2019 levels, said Bowman. Morgan Stanley research note earlier, they said the large banks currently have 175 billion excess capital. Okay, so this is kind of just giving you where we think we get to. So what does that mean then in terms of where we play this into expectations for price on BTC over the course of the next couple of days? Because let's face it, that's what people care about. So again, I'll move you guys just so you can see the charts a little bit here, TikTok, and just make life a bit easier. So what are we expecting? Well, the answer is nothing. Really, the answer is nothing. Because we aren't really pricing in a rate cut. That's not a thing. What I think you're going to get a real reaction on, and my advice, it's not financial, but it's just my advice, is you would be insane to trade this tomorrow. Just my personal opinion. You look at it today as a kind of how crazy it's been. What's going to be important, though, is what Jerome Powell's going to say. That is everything we need to understand. Because he's got two reasons to sort of, give a view, which is one, he isn't going to be kicking around for a while. And there's all this sort of crazy stuff going on behind the scenes as well. So definitely worth thinking about. The Federal Reserve, two things will certainly give us a view. And that isn't all. Like we said, tomorrow is a pretty crazy day because we also get, PCE is also, PPI comes in tomorrow as well, which is kind of crazy. As well as then you get, core PPI and the Fed interest rates and the economic projections that we get tomorrow, which will update us on the dot plot and update us on the sentiment and the view of where the Federal Reserve is. So it's a pretty big day tomorrow. And then obviously you get Jerome Powell going to talk. So, in the short term, what do we kind of expect? That's a bigger question. 1,000 likes incoming. Shout out to Fairground, making it happen right now. We could wick down. We've seen a sell-off today. Nothing super crazy. Came down, retested this upper range, broke down. So, structurally, we're still sort of in this uptrend. Again, not surprising that we see this kind of sell-off here over the course of today. What's interesting is the broader altcoin market has actually sold off quite significantly. Look at the total twos at 0.66, actually 0.21% worse than the overall cryptocurrency market. Again, still playing out pretty obvious here as this kind of walks through where we are. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get a BTC retracement, back down to 74,000. You can see there we got a little bit of movement pricing off that. We obviously know this would, previously here was resistance, has kind of turned into a very, very, very small amount of support. Maybe it gets a little bit more here on the 4-hour chart. You can see where that sort of sits there. Maybe this then ends up being support and we can hold this line. It's all going to depend on what Jerome Powell says, and it's all going to depend on, what that kind of announcement is post the official decision, which is going to be they're going to hold interest rates. It's what he comes out and talks about. I'm sitting back and just watching tomorrow falls. I think it's probably a good idea. If oil goes $3 a day, I mean, that's pretty wild. Are you doing the bingo card too? But yeah, we do need to do the bingo card. Yeah, XRP will run till FOMC and dump like usual. So yeah, we do need to do the generic bingo card for tomorrow. And we'll post it in the Discord. So make sure that you are in there. Or be square. You don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss out. Which one do we normally use? Is that one? Where is it? Oh, there it is. I got it. I got it. Okay. Excuse me. So we got Fed rate. Oops. Fed rate day. Oops. There we are. Fed rate day. We will come back and we will stick all that in ready for tomorrow. The Web is never going to agree on now Iran, the new Orange Emperor. I mean, that's probably true. That's probably true. So again, when it comes to the price of BTC right now, you can see where we sit here on the 4-hour chart, and then more importantly, right now on the 12-hour, which looks like this range here on BTC around $74,000 is going to potentially be a support, which tells us that if you lose 74,000, you're probably looking at incrementals down. 73,000 is here. That probably is the next potential wick down back to the support here at 70,000. Could give us a view. Toby, can you tell me XRP to the moon to cheer me up after the Chelsea result? Oh, what was it? I mean, I don't follow football at all, but what was the result? But yeah, XRP to the moon. What was the result though, by the way? It was okay. Okay, let's move on from that. Sorry, man. So yeah, so again, this is kind of where I think we sit with price, and again, worth noting specifically as we sort of walk into tomorrow as to what the Federal Reserve may or may not do. All right, important to think about. Okay, don't forget, by the way, if you haven't already hit the like button and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, then definitely do so, by the way. I definitely think it's worth it. Obviously, I'm slightly biased as to how this all works as my channel, but I'd appreciate it if you guys could just give a quick like, and don't forget, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your views in there. So 2 very, very important things we talked about, and you could actually see some price movement on the back of this. Okay, so the other thing that is worth just talking about really quickly as to market moves. So where I want to get to here is less about I think we're going to the moon, and more about where could we go to, because I think that is probably worthwhile. So let's just see if I can bring this up. I'm confused about XRP 150 while Hype is at 40 plus blows my mind. Yeah, Hype's been having another good day, hasn't it? In fairness, Hype's been Hype's been pretty hyped, if we're dead honest, as to kind of where it's been moving right now. So yeah, pretty bullish, if you ask moi. Is this what I want to look at? Not really. This is not what I want to look at. I can't find where it is. So the other thing that I think is worth noting, by the way, is there's a number of options, Bitcoin, Ethereum, a number of stock market options all close, that all close out, pretty soon as well, which is kind of worth noting here. And what you've got obviously is very just stable market. And that sounds crazy because actually we've seen the markets going to the upside, but if you look at open interest, which is the desire of people kind of diving into this market, you can see that actually we're not doing a lot in terms of the last hour, but for the last 24 hours, you are seeing a slight increase in open interest. So people are starting just to get ready to position themselves or maybe even roll some of these contracts. Because remember, when you've got options expiries, you either need to close them out, take the money, or you have to buy new ones. And I think that's what we've got coming pretty soon as well. So there is a ton coming up for the crypto market. There's loads coming up for the general stock market as well, just to kind of give a bit of a view as to kind of where this all sits and more importantly, what we can look out for, because, what you don't want to get is just wrecked on some of this. And there is going to be super crazy volatility with all of this. Whenever you get option expiries, specifically, like I said, around BTC and Ethereum, then this is where you can get these real big spikes in price, which I think, like I said, for a number of people, this is where you get these kind of big wicks and big volatility and all the rest of it. So it is kind of worth noting. I did have a chart for it, but I can't find the chart, which is really annoying because I did have the chart and now I don't know where it is. You'll just have to. Oh, here it is. Is this it? This might be it. No, that's not it. That's not it. I found out how to make this chart go print me them properly, but I can't find where it is now. Oh, here we go. I think I've got it. Please tell me this is the right chart. Kind of. Yeah, here we go. All right, here we go. Jesus Christ. Deribit options, open interest by expiration. So they're telling us when you have Bitcoin expiration. So these are contracts that are being taken out. You could call it Wall Street as an example. And what you've got here is the 27th of March is the day that it all is about to get pretty fucking crazy, okay? So again, it's not this week, but it's post this week. It's next week. So, you're 10 days out. So we're looking at next Friday. Week on Friday, you've got this kind of real massive spike. What you can see here is the open interest price on BTC generally sits around, this kind of 74,000-ish price on open interest. Again, they expire. People either need to close them out, they need to reposition them, buy new ones. So you're going to see real volatility here on the 27th. So you've got a couple of pretty crazy kind of thoughts and moves here. The new Orange Emperor spending, yeah, the Iran's not good. We're talking about that. You're going to see that in consumer price as well. So you'll see that in goods, the price of goods going across. But yeah, so this is telling us that next week we need to be very mindful of where BTC is going to go. 74,000 is probably where we sit and probably where we trade for the next week or so. Do I think we could pump up to this high range? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen before the weekend, in my view. I think next week you'll see this very stagnant, very sluggish kind of market, which probably sits around 74,000, given the fact you're going to see this massive potential outflow here on all this potential risk on open interest, okay? So it's important to think about. This is on BTC, by the way. You can see it on Ethereum. You can see it on a number of other ones. But like I said, giving you the indication here that is where we might see this kind of risk here. We might see a certain element of volatility, then into relative calm. It's kind of where we are. So, you need to kind of understand where it is. Forza buy or sell. I mean, I personally would just sit tight, and it depends where you're at. It depends what your portfolio looks like. Depends what your ambition is. But, I think there's loads of stuff here that's going to just be a real risk, that's going to create risk. And therefore, I think depending on where you sit as an individual and an investor, you either want to embrace the risk or not. And I, for one, I'm not embracing the risk right now. But if you watched our live stream last night, we talked about some of the key things that are happening in the markets to sort of give you an idea as to where this could go. Then these are the sort of things you need to be mindful of and be aware of as to how markets shape. And right now, the FOMC followed by the Basel III vote, followed then by open interest and options closing week after, all creates this kind of pretty interesting week, and certainly one to be very mindful of and very, very conscious of. Okay. So yeah, so I just wanted to cover off that as well. Right. What else do we need to do? So we've covered off the Basel III. We'll see what that looks like. Again, remember, it goes forward for a further vote. Fed's monetary dot plot we'll get tomorrow as a little bit more of a view. And then, look, let's kind of wait and see what happens. There's a very interesting analysis here from Bull Theory. It says Bitcoin is up 21% in the last 21 days. BTC jumped $13,500 since Jane Street was sued. And amid the US-Iran conflict, to the total crypto market added nearly 400 billion, while gold and silver erased 2.4 trillion. Crypto is showing insane strength in times of crisis. Probably true. Looks like I stumbled into the wrong bar again. Lizard King, what's going on? Anyone in Malt? No. I have seen a couple of people talk about it. I think I kind of had a look at it. Can you analyze Solana short term? Yes, we can have a look at that in a second. We can have a look at that. When Trump says the economy means the stock market, not cash, inflation, tax and bills, whether people talking about S&P 500 over 50,000, remember. I mean, yeah. What you've got as well, by the way, a little bit here is that the S&P is what Trump's putting a lot of his emphasis. The problem is the very concept of what's going on in Iran is directly affecting the S&P 500. So, and then when you sort of think about that in an inflation perspective and a tariffs perspective, then it all sort of aligns to a pretty interesting moment, should we say? Okay, good. That brings us to the end of that section of the live stream. So we talked about FOMC. Again, I'm not saying that we're going to get any sort of insane news tomorrow, but it is sort of worth thinking about. So let's just have a look at some coins. Let's take any questions, thoughts, opinions you guys might have. Let's just kind of open the floor up and get a bit of a view here. We'll take a look at some DeFi players, and then obviously we'll fill the bingo card in for tomorrow for the FOMC meeting as well. So Solana, someone was asking about Solana. Look at this. Again, 12-hour chart in the range, still on the breakout right now. So, a retest of sort of $92, $94, $93 wouldn't be the worst number in the world. You'd probably almost want to see, almost want to see that a little bit, to be honest. But right now, still holding within this range, which is good news, and actually is a breakout here. So you could see, we could expect Solana to run a little bit higher. 105 would probably be the where you'd want to see Sol break above. Is it going to come over the course of the next couple of days? Probably not, just given the sheer volatility we have in the market. Does it mean it can't come, over the course of the next month or two? Maybe. Maybe the bigger debate is, like I said, are we going to retrace or are we not? That is sort of, the bigger question here of where we sit. Society says BTC on the day closed green or red. What take on USDT, Dom? I mean, I think BTC closes out. Well, we take a look at the futures market right now. It might actually close out green, which would be pretty wild if you think about it. But the broader altcoin market is not particularly great. But yeah, I mean, it could in essence close out green. Let's just let me bring this up here real quick. Okay, cool. Smash the like button. Let's do it. Jasmine. I mean, Jasmine was like booking the trend today. Look, 1.15% up, breaking out from this kind of line here. Jasmine actually showing a little bit of strength, which is great, by the way. You want Jasmine to move a little bit. So yeah, hopefully we can sort of continue to see this move to the upside. But right now, yeah, I mean, there isn't the most amount of stuff going on with Jasmine. It's, is kind of where it is, but still, we are definitely seeing this kind of potential move up, which is good. Monad struggling to get back to launch price. Do you think there is breakout coming? I mean, Monad, definitely something that I'm watching. Definitely. I mean, it has broken out here on the, on this kind of pennant that we were talking about here. Still needs to get, a wriggle on, from where it kind of wants. I mean, it's just above launch price, isn't it? But I mean, you're up here, aren't you? Really, where this is where people are in at around the 3 cent mark. But, again, Monad has broken out. So if this range sort of continues with us, then yeah, maybe we get this kind of continuation to the upside that we kind of want, really. I mean, I say we want short term, we want a bit of upside moves. I'd rather obviously dumps the price we all get in again, but we'll see. we'll see. But yeah, Monad's looking all right. A couple of altcoins. Again, we talked about Sui, by the way. I've been discussing Sui for a while. Definitely looking at, that's my first entry price, 86 cents. We talked about this last time with a potential view down here around 68 as this kind of goes down, but 3% down on the day. Pretty interesting. Again, you get a couple of other coins that came down. Link at 9.8, down below 10, which is kind of interesting as well. Ondo giving up some of its gains over the course of yesterday. Not all of them, but certainly some of them starting to come back a little bit. Someone was asking about Swift Coin yesterday. We touched on this, didn't we? Look at it. We were like, can Swift Coin get to, I think it was 3 cents. It might have been Bitcoin Bijam that came in. It's like, oh my God, Swift Coin's going to the moon. I was like, if Swift Coin gets this announcement, this massive partnership, like, oh yeah, it's going to go to the moon. Swift Coin breaking out by nearly 10% on the day, which is kind of wild. So yeah, pretty interesting. Hype, obviously, we've been discussing that one. Then did sell off very, very early on, but has now continued its rally. 41.81 there on Hype, which is kind of interesting. And then a couple of other notes, by the way. Jupe announced staking and lending protocol with funded rewards, which is kind of interesting. So they've moved 3.6%. Fetch continues its move. And Quant, I know some of you guys have been asking about Quant, had a nice little movie at 3.43%. So some of these kind of OG coins starting to move a little bit more favorably, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? As this kind of all walks through. Memes, obviously, pretty flat. Pepe giving up pretty much most of its gains, certainly 50% of them from yesterday. Gold still clinging on for dear life above 5,000, but does look like it's going to give up that pretty soon. Silver down now $79. Very much doing what we said it would probably do, which is, you're almost in this world of, this is kind of breaking down now. Pretty obvious here on silver. So look, expectation is that, you're going to see silver probably give up the goat a little bit, I think, personally. If you take from that sort of range, where do you get to? Could silver be heading back towards $60? Maybe. I'm all in on Jupiter and Solana Eco. Yeah, I mean, I still hold Jupe, in fairness. I kind of like it. I'm not bullish on nothing but ISO coins from here on out. The time for the banks to take over. Well, I mean, definitely keep an eye on what the Fed decides to do with the banks tomorrow. That could be a big part. I'm just praying my house sells in time to catch the lows with my buys. Wow, that's conviction. Love to see it. Love to see it. And then, look, stock market pretty flat. Brent crude 103. We touched on this. The bond market is, again, reasonably flat. MSTR, Coinbase, all having a decent-ish day. And obviously, the Japanese Bank of Interest Rate December? The Bank of Interest Rate decision is tomorrow, I want to say. Can I not just put this on? That's kind of annoying, actually. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Why can't I spell stuff? What is wrong with me? Oh, it's there. Jesus. Wednesday. Oh, no, sorry. It's Thursday is the Bank of Japan's decision. So, yeah, so Thursday here, look, the Bank of Japan's decision. Expectations are that they remain at 0.75%. So, again, oh no, the carry trade unwind. We're all going to go to zero. It's going to be a disaster. I don't know if that's, true. But, again, worth thinking about. Worth thinking about. It's annoying. I thought you could put way more on here, but you can't. You can only have what I think Bloomberg's about. Good. All right. So where are we on BTC? 74,768 here. You guys can see that on the chart. Yep. 74,768. Again, bouncing off that support. So BTC right now is kind of holding up. If we're honest, it's kind of holding up. But you kind of go, right, well, okay, well, let's see what it's got. Let's see if it's got the minerals to make the moves. I mean, the crazy or blessed, Pete, time will tell. I mean, yeah, fair play. I would buy many pints of Guinness. Oh, dear. Better than last night. 72. I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true. Obviously, we did get a wick down, on BTC over the course of the days to where we sit. So, futures markets, if anyone cares, what is the expectations? Wow, a lot of green. I wasn't expecting that. So, Asia probably looks like you're going to get a little bit. Shanghai Composite and the Shenzhen look like they're going to sell off a little bit. I don't necessarily think this is the biggest impact in terms of Bitcoin, but again, worth noting. And actually, then you're going to get Australia and down south. down under, and the Pacific are potentially buy zones. Europe looks like it's going to be strong, and the US weirdly looks like that's also going to be strong at market opens. Now, US is obviously only closed a few hours ago, but the Europe one's interesting, and I think this is all to do with the fact they're all sort of rallying and saying, nope, we're not getting involved in the whole Iran thing, so, fair play. Fair play, in my opinion. Let's see what that looks like in a broader topic. Good. I'm just remaining long. At some point, I will big boy short. There you go. Well, the big question, like we said, is when does this market rally end? I mean, is this the end of the market rally? I mean, I don't know. It feels like it hasn't hit any of the key levels you'd really want. Now, you could argue, if you just take some of these indicators off, you could argue here that it is kind of forming a similar pattern that we saw. The point here is, though, that the high makes no sense now. So actually, you're looking for it to retest the breakout, which you could argue, I guess, that is probably more appropriate for that previous move there, which then says, look, the breakout on this previous move here did wick us back down into the channel and actually spanned a period of what? A week. So, where are we at right now here? We've got a breakout of 2 days essentially. Whereas here, you had a week. So this could be the reversal. We come back down. This will be interesting if it plays out and then back in. It's a very similar pattern. I mean, literally very, very similar. And I think then you get a decision that says, well, either we follow this pattern, we wick back down. This gets us to, that kind of low end 60, 55K, or we find some consolidation, probably around 73.8 of 74,000. And then we start to see a more, then we start to see a bit more consolidation before sort of making a breakout. The point you got here is this is a super boring, no liquidity zone that we need to be, mindful of. So we either wick through this relatively quickly, 86,000 potentially being the price action based on previous movement. I mean, if we go to that, probably gives us a bit more of a fairer view, but still, you're still pretty bearish up to around $82,000 on a liquidity perspective or a historical trade perspective. It's St. Patrick's Day, so I'm going downtown start. Get it, Lizard King. It was wild. I was bringing my little boy back from football tonight, and honestly, I haven't seen where I live. I just haven't seen that many people out partying in that little amount of clothing for a long time. And obviously, as a 42-year-old man, I've seen it all before. Do you know what I mean? I've seen it all before. I don't need to see it again. Not bothered about it. Okay. Right. We do need to fill in our bingo card for the... Man, it's so bright. For tomorrow. So shout your views and what you want installing in here. Let's put it in the middle. We're going to put... I'm going to chuck it in and put laptop. So yeah. Let me know what you want. So these are any things that you think Jerome Powell says, does, or that comes out of the Federal Reserve meeting tomorrow. And we'll take a look at how we got on. I will post this in the Discord so you guys have got it as well. All right. So let me know what you think you are going to get, see, view here on the Federal Reserve meeting tomorrow. And yeah, I can attach it here to the... I can attach it to the bingo card. My chat isn't updating unless I go in and out. World Cup games there. Nice. Yeah. Oh, he's definitely going to see that. Data dependent. Definitely. Ease in. Man, you think he's going to say ease into? That's wild. It's wild. I can always depend on Tim Shea when the You definitely need to see it again if you're 40. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, he'll mention war in Iran. I also think he probably brings up tariffs. In my opinion, I think he brings up tariffs. Inflation. What about it? We need to be a bit more specific. Do we think he might talk about a rise in inflation? Could be pretty wild. Could be pretty wild, couldn't it? Oh, yeah, jobs data. Jobs data. I could see him doing that. Sorry, itch. Definitely see him do jobs data, for sure. Iran, how they're going to get in the USA. What does that mean, Stu? Goal. Oh, the 2% goal. Yeah, well, he'll say that in his opening statement, won't he? Our dual mandate to support stable pricing and the federal, view to get to that. He'll talk about oil. Yeah, so oil. Yeah. Can he just YOLO and cut rates, or is it a vote? It's a vote, Zach. So they have to vote as a collective to decide. So labor market. Yeah. I mean, that would be the wrong decision. Yeah, it'd be pretty wild. It would be pretty wild, if I'm honest. Purple tie. Oh, we forgot about that. Yeah, let's put the purple tie in there. I'm going to put it there. Purple tie. I think he'll get asked about whether he's staying on. So I think he'll get asked whether he's going to stay at the Federal Reserve. Bearing in mind, he's entitled to stay on if he wants to. So yeah, so my view is he'll get asked about, has he decided whether he stays on? I think he'll be asked as he spoke to Kevin Walsh. Kevin Walsh is my view. Veen, right, Inc. What's going on, man? Welcome in. Data, yeah, we got that. We've got data. Data dependent we've put on there. Powell will come out dressed up as a leprechaun. I mean, that'd be pretty wild if he did. He's going to be late turning up. Oh, you reckon? Yeah, late. Like that. Like that. Okay, keep them coming. We've got a few more to go in. BTC currently 74,700. So, yeah, holding its own right now. Not by much, but is holding its own, just. Okay. I mean, it would be almost hilarious if he came out dressed as a leprechaun. That'd be pretty wild. We talk about USA versus crypto all the time, but never about Europe versus crypto. Where's Mika moving forwards? It's important to focus on where we have not over the pond. I mean, that's true. I mean, don't forget, we just, as a Eurozone, we went, Mika regulations. I think you've got to understand, for me, and look at what's she called? Vonda, whatever she's called. I can't remember her name. Von der Leyen or whatever her name. Ursula von der Leyen, that's it, the European Union Commissioner. I think that there is no appetite to be way more crypto positive in Europe. There is definitely not. I mean, I read something earlier on. The UK is investing $7.1 million into AI infrastructure and how to report crypto fraud. Like, yeah, the UK is fucked. Honestly, it's absolute joke right now. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't pay your taxes, but they're more bothered about trying to find, tax evasion than just doing the right thing. Housing market. Do you think maybe? I mean, housing market would be pretty wild if you brought it up. He resigns early. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? That would be wild. Ask if he will stay on. Is his time not up though? He was going to. So yeah, Aiden, but he can stay on in the federal. He can stay on as a governor if he chooses to. So I think he can serve another year, maybe. Scott Snows, what's going on, man? Thank you. Yeah, he can serve an extra year, I believe. So, yeah, he could stay on. 37, Powell coughs the national anthem. I mean, there's definitely... We could do clears throat... clears throat at the start. There you go. BF says, hey, bro, how are you? I got wrecked again today badly, both in long and short during US market opens. It's getting very tough to trade. Don't trade in these crazy times, bro. Don't do it. We just talk, go back to the start of the stream. Watch the start of the stream. Don't, again, low leverage. So I'm actually, weirdly, I've got a couple of long positions open, which they're not turned out to be that favorable, but they're super low leverage. They're like 3 or 4x leverage. We'll take a look at the chart prime bot as well, and we'll see what that's doing in just a minute. But yeah, Powell drops a mic moment. What's the mic moment? Let's say names Trump. Okay, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need about 8 more. I made a little yesterday, 50x long. Nice. Did Russia make the World Cup? I've no idea. Thank you, 2-Bit. See you tomorrow. Hopefully, Mrs. yelling something from the bedroom. I gotta go. I mean, there's a joke in there somewhere. So, yeah, you gotta enjoy it. I mean, not enjoy yourself, but you know what I mean. Oh, dear. Right, loads of you asking about the World Cup, by the way. I've just brought it up just for pure curiosity's sake. Is there like a fixtures? Oh, here we are. 85 days until it starts, though. Oh, that's not... I want a table. Oh, that would have been way better if I'd got a table. USA versus Paraguay, Mexico, South Africa. And there's still some qualifying to do, isn't there? Okay, fine. Fine. The new Orange Emperor got a massive trophy of FIFA Peace Prize. Really? Interesting. Trump's live now, is he? What's he talking about? President Trump participates in what? In a Shamrock Bowl presentation. What is this?
This brewer from Dublin, Arthur Guinness, and creator of Ireland's most famous export. His family helped build Ireland, and now ours reminds us of the values and principles that built America. So thank you very much. It's a great honor. Nice to see you.
I mean, I've got to be honest. We are scraping the barrel if we need to watch Donald Trump talk about St. Patrick's Day. I've got to be honest. That feels like it's not going to do anything. Anything at all. The Shamrock drinking competition. She will tell you to put the bins out, Grimmer. Yeah, be careful, Grimmer. Something about dues they haven't paid. Interesting. Price of oil. Yeah, we've got oil. So here's the bingo card. So we just need a couple. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to get in there. He's gonna say no comment. He'll go, I'm not gonna comment on that. Oh, I've got no comment about that. He'll get asked some sort of ridiculous question like, what do you think about the war in Iran or something like that? He's gonna say, I don't have a comment for that. That's my personal opinion. My personal opinion. Maybe it's right, maybe it's not. He will say jobs better than expected. Do we have jobs? Jobs data we've got. We've got what else we put down? What about risk? Increasing risk. I'll just put higher risk, actually. So I think, again, he's going to talk about the fact that there is an increasing risk on the economy because of Iran and all that kind of stuff. I think he's going to say that. Interest rates, it's literally what they're going to talk about. I think he'll talk about, let's say he'll explain no cuts. Damien, what's going on, bro? Welcome in. By the way, there's 115 of you in the stream right now, so do me a quick favor. Smash up the like button to a brand new all-time high. If you are new here, don't forget the subscribe button. We do talk about the crypto market every single day, 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UK. Don't miss it. It's always the best show to get involved in, all right? So don't fade the opportunity now while you're here, in my opinion. Okay. Pretty hilarious. One of Trump's right-hand counterintelligence executives resigns, and the guy was pro-MAGA. He said no evidence of Iran posing a imminent threat to the US. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Apparently, Damien, you've now just reached level 16 in the fan club, whatever that means. Shout out to you. Global uncertainty. Ooh, yeah. Let's do global concerns. Yeah, global concerns. Okay, we got purple tie. We've got he'll walk on with a laptop. Anything else you guys can think about? 1, 2, 3. We need 4 more. We need 4 more. Let's try and think what's really relevant at the minute. What is kind of the, what is kind of the view? I mean, inflation is ticking up. We talked briefly about this the other day. So I think it's like 1.5 or something now. Yeah, look at this. 1.52 right now on Trueflation. Pretty interesting there. The producer price index. So that could be a concern. What about energy concerns. So as in like price of energy and the price of going up. Fort Knox. Love that. What a contract Trump's first term compared to his second. It's pretty wild. I'd like to say you could not make it up. He got morals. He trips up. Oh, imagine how good that would be. Been told oil will go up $3 a day. Wow. Vern's in the house, everybody. What's going on, Vern? Like it. Shout out to Vern's here. Welcome to you, sir. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Okay, so inflation definitely there. I mean, look, BTC is kind of holding up right now. It's kind of wild where it is. If you ask me, it is kind of pretty crazy that we are just clinging on for dear life. Oh yeah, good point actually. I think the Basel III, I think you might get asked about that. Stable coins, maybe. And one more. I feel like we need one more about him specifically. Not a lot. Well, I say not a lot actually. We talked about the Basel III vote that's happening tomorrow with the Federal Reserve, which no one's talking about, which is important. We also talked about the potential at the FOMC and what this could do to influence price of BTC. So yeah, you know how the things are, bullish streams and all that kind of stuff. Tomorrow's the day. Just saying. The day for what though? Roma. The day for what? Powell will say the seal. Yeah, did we put stepping down on there or not? I can't remember if we did. Let's put it down. So stepping down. Does he have another one or not? Is this I think we've changed that to last meeting. I think we can do that because I feel like he steps down after that. Right. So the bingo card is in. I will post this into the Discord. There you go. So you guys have got it. There you go. Look. There you go. You've got the Fed rate one, and I will keep it here so we can take a look at how we got on tomorrow based on that. Now, what we can expect on price, by the way, as we always seem to get, is the W pattern on the Federal Reserve decision. It's always a bit volatile in the markets. I don't think tomorrow will be any different. I think, you're going to see some really kind of crazy volatility that sits in the market. So therefore, I would be very mindful about, being heavy into positions, just in my opinion. Unless you can ride it out, then it's fine. The day that we think it will dump, then pump, or other way around. It's hard to say, really. I know that's like a proper like cop out, but let's see what. I mean, not that this is in any way, shape, or form how you should operate, but let's see what the view is. It says, will Stephen Myron dissent the next Fed decision? Will Christopher Waller dissent? I mean, it's pretty wild, isn't it? Can you please share the name of the platform which you were displaying in the previous screen for checking inflation? It's Trueflation, this one here. There you go. I posted it in the link. Posted it in the link. Right. Let's really quickly look at... let's take a look at what the bot was doing. It didn't... it took one trade out, I think, today, just to give you... Oh, it's got two trades. So it's got a Pepe short that it's getting demolished on and a Tau short that's getting demolished on. It's like, stop shorting the market, you knob. I'm only kidding. It had a bad day yesterday. Look at this. It wrecked for $9.51. So overall right now, I don't know where it sits as a total profit and loss. I think we're down a little bit. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we're down about, I don't know, $4 or something like that. I think is a total P&L right now. But yeah. So I need the market to dump. I need the market to dump. All good, my man. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Red or green tie? We gone purple. He always wears a purple tie, doesn't he? But yeah, so that's where the bot sits right now. Again, some of these trades, I mean, I don't know if to close these out. Like, for example, it hasn't done anything with this AVAX one. It hasn't done anything on this SUI one, which is meant to kind of do stuff. But anyway, we'll leave them live right now and we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is kind of where the bot sits at the minute. It's just trading Tau a lot. You know, Tau's been pretty wild. What I think this bot struggles a little bit at is where we get these kind of big spikes up. But yeah, at the minute, it's in 2 short positions as of 4 o'clock this afternoon and this morning. So that Tau one would have been a nice short this morning. It just didn't close the position out soon enough. But hey, we'll see where it goes to. Again, we'll see what this market does. Maybe the market rolls over. I put Tau in the... I put Tau in here so we can kind of keep an eye on it. Look, 279. So where did the bot go in at? 272 was the entry. So, you know, we need to kind of... I mean, it's definitely consolidating. I mean, maybe this kind of wicks down, and then Pepe was, I mean, it's hard to see what the entry price is. Probably like 50 or something. Cornish says, wish I was on Ducky and Peanut. I don't know what they are. Oh, someone said about a meme coin. Let's take a look at it. Not that I'm advocating for meme coins, by the way. I'm not saying it at all, but pretty wild out there in meme coin land. What was it called? Mo or something? Is that right? Was it Molt? Hold on a minute. Did I look at this yesterday? Is it Solana? I think I maybe looked at this yesterday. Where's it at right now? 3.99. Yeah, this was at like 3.13 or something yesterday. I saw a few people talking about it. The only thing I don't like is that's kind of unnatural a little bit. This doesn't create loads of sort of crazy volatility, really. But I mean, still nothing. Yeah, Stuart. I'd give you 4-1 odds on that, Stuart. If you win, you buy me a beer. What are you betting on? I don't even know what you guys are betting on. Don't even know what you guys are talking about. Anyway. The world of the memes. That's about it, really. I don't really have anything else going on. It's all a bit quiet out there in meme coin land. So, yeah, I mean, Tau pushing down, BTC pushing down, futures. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's kind of wild, isn't it? I mean, who would have thought we'd get this rally on the price of BTC? But, yeah. Let's hope it dumps to oblivion. Let's hope it dumps to oblivion. Worthwhile keeping an eye out for, in my opinion. Just in my opinion. Hey! About the conspiracy of Trump being the last ever president. What? Man, conspiracy theories are wild. Conspiracy theories are wild. Okay, let's... The 15-minute chart, just really quickly. What do we got? What do we got here on BTC? Is anything happening? You know, head and shoulder pattern. Generally, we're seeing that. Probably a bit more prominent on the... I mean, fairness, look at this. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. You know, maybe. Maybe. So, you know, where does your price target start to come in? 72, 70, 727? Is that where you give it? Hi, mate. Sell what is TP? What? Hi, mate. Sell what is TP? For what? Family Guy edits. Are you asking me what TP stands for, or are you asking me what a TP would be on BTC or something? Yeah, I know what take profit is, but on what though? Sell what is TP? Oh, am I selling? All right. I mean, the honest answer is no. But where I want to be, I'm looking for entries. That's kind of what I'm looking at. So I sold about 55% of my entire portfolio at 108, 109,000. So I'm looking to get back in to the market. So I am expecting the market to sell off. I'm definitely expecting a retest of the low end of 60,000, maybe even a bit lower, 58k. And you know, and everyone can be like super crazy, like, oh my God, you are absolutely just a Nubatron. But you know, this is nothing on a bear market. We've discussed this a number of times as well. So, you know, I think my view is look, I said this the other day. If we got to say 76, 77,000, let's say BTC rallied to here, then I might consider selling some of my altcoins in a view to get more stablecoin to buy when I think the price goes lower. I did say that the other day. So it depends what you're in. Again, what I'm looking for is if BTC here on the daily does print this candle, does then go and print another candle tomorrow, then, we might start to see this kind of, roll back down into this trend line here, which could be pretty interesting as, as this kind of then starts to play out. And then that could form the basis for the then dump. We'll see. We'll see. But again, there's a lot of catalysts that could push this market higher as well. So it's worth noting that side of things that, the market could end up giving us a little bit more back. So we'll see. John says, hello from New Zealand. What's going on, John? Good to see you, man. Welcome in. Welcome in. I mean, BTC definitely selling off a little bit. I mean, what you haven't got here is sort of super crazy stuff. I don't know if people even care about this, by the way, but I did update all my bookmap stuff. I don't really use it, to be honest. I find it a little bit complicated. But if you are more of a trader, then I could see why this would be a good news story. But yeah, I don't really use it too much, to be honest. Money get you out of jail with a pardon. Bear's about to get wrecked. Innovative, what's going on? I mean, I'm not a bear. I'm just an opportunist. I'm an opportunist. Like I said, we've hedged against the potential risks. So I think it's always important. I'm looking for that entry on a trade, which would be nice. But at the same time, we've got spot bags that if it is going to move, then it will, we'll take the opportunity and we'll run with it. Like, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, so BTC, USDT, we could put in there and put in like that, and that. Don't know if you guys have really ever seen book maps. I think we've looked at this before, haven't we? You guys have seen book maps before, right? Kind of gives us an idea as to, I mean, it's probably a little bit big, actually. Let me just close this out. So I start to see where liquidity's sitting here on, there we are, that's a bit better. On BTC, and then what we can sort of see from a, buy and sell perspective. So you can see kind of just, this is obviously on the Binance Exchange where you can see, this sort of liquidity setup, and then equally kind of what buys and sells are coming in. So you can see this strong liquidity up at 75,000, interesting enough. Equally downside risk as well. So, difficult one to see whether we sort of get much of a move here or not. Downside liquidity, you can see definitely there's an appetite probably to sell this market off a little bit, I think, personally. Depending on how you feel about it, but you can definitely start to see a little bit of liquidity here at the bottom. Equally, you definitely got some liquidity building at the top, but most of it certainly sitting around this. But just look at some of these sort of sells that are coming in right now here on the 5 minute. So definitely telling us that 75 is a potential mover upper. Whether it gets there or not is a bigger debate, though, isn't it? Is a bigger debate. Okay. Oops, that's not what I wanted to show you. There we are. So yeah, time will tell. Let's see what happens with BTC. I mean, definitely bookmarks giving us a little bit of something to look at. So yeah, my bag's going higher at the moment. Wayne, what's going on, Wayne? If it goes up 10 cents, sell, buy back when dip. There you go. I think sell. What do you think, bro? Do you buy and sell like stocks or like actual crypto? I buy and sell. Well, I don't really buy and sell. I don't trade crypto. I buy it, I hold it. I trade like, I will, I trade it. Don't forget, we do have our free Discord. You are all welcome to join the Discord. Like I said, it's totally free. Get involved with that. We obviously have our trade guides in there, our bots in there, and everything else. And a few trades like you, thinking upside. I mean, I think, yeah, volatile. It's going to be volatile tomorrow. That is my view of the market. Obviously, it's been pretty quiet with the whole Iran situation today. I haven't seen a lot going on with that. So that is probably worth thinking about. Whether it creates the craziest volatility, I don't know. Isn't the previous cycle all-time high usually the next cycle low bottom? So going off that would be pretty close to the last cycle all-time high. I mean, technically, you could argue at 60,000, we've already met that point. You could already argue that we've wicked that. 69 was the previous all-time high back in, here, look. So arguably, we've already sort of revisited that 69 too. Yeah. So I think Bitcoin rises maybe 20%. Is that when you say rises? So pretty quiet today. Yeah, it's been quiet. Yeah. Markets have been relatively flat and boring today, but yeah, is what it is. Is what it is. Right, everybody. I've been live now an hour and 25 minutes. So that, as always, does bring us to the end of the stream. So I'm going to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow night, 4 p.m. Eastern, to break down these markets. We'll obviously have the Federal Reserve decision view. We'll talk about that tomorrow night. And also that Basel III as well. So lots to talk about tomorrow night. Certainly will give us a view as to where the market's probably going to go in the short and medium term. So make sure you tuned in. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button and turn that notification bell on. That means that you get notified whenever we go live, 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UK. But don't miss it, all right? It's going to be good. And let's see what happens in the markets. Watch out. I think BTC does close red. It certainly feels like it. Maybe even retest 74,500. If we go below, then could be interesting. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.